Do you think, Howard, that the New York Times, I'll follow up what Willie was going to say, do you think the New York Times is like a right-wing hit piece against Hillary Clinton?
No, I think, first of all, I think the accusations are somewhat different between Bush and Clinton, assuming this is what's going on. The accusations about Hillary are that the Clinton Foundation took nonprofit cash, none of which went into their pocket, and then in quid pro quo, she supposedly did something for all these donors that gave to these causes.
Well, on the side, but you know, Howard, this is the second time you've said it, so I'm just going to add a little footnote on that. They also got paid money by some of these people for giving speeches, $550,000.
And I think that's
so. I've let you say that 2 times. I have to put the footnote on the second time you do that talking point. Go ahead.
I think that's a legitimate inquiry.
Okay, go ahead.
But the allegation about Jeb Bush, and I'm not saying any of these are true, is that he personally made money by dealing with all these folks. Nonetheless, this is the problem here. I'm not going to accuse the New York Times of having bias. I mean, they do. Everybody has bias. But there is, the author is getting money from donors, big donors, billions. Texas who support Ted Cruz. That is a problem. That is a problem.
You're going back to the author?
But that's a fact.
Okay,
Peter Schweitzer is the president.
That has nothing to do. The New York Times, the New York Times, Newsweek, other publications are following these leads. You can try to trace it back to an author, but you're actually going to have to condemn the New York Times, Joe Becker, and Mike McIntyre, because they're the ones that wrote this story.
I use the New York Times as an example in journalism classes because by the 5th paragraph in any political story, we could probably find one right here, whatever the political story in the front page is, by the 5th paragraph, they're substituting their judgment.
Howard, I've just got to say,
that is a fact.
Howard, I consider you a good friend of mine. I think it is unbecoming for you to come on this show and to just reflexively attack everybody that tries to bring up any information that goes against what you want people to hear about Hillary Clinton.
They did it to George W. Bush. That's what they do.
Jeremy Peters?
Well, I mean, Howard, would you say that I'm a sloppy political New York Times journalist? I think that is an overly broad generalization that maligns my colleagues, and I really think it's quite unfair of you because I've dealt with you an awful lot, and I don't think that you would call me sloppy.
I would not, but there are plenty of people who write for the New York Times and every other paper that I think are incredibly sloppy, and I could name a lot of them, including some correspondents, well-known correspondents on various networks, one of which covered this story, who basically put up stuff. I have been threatened by reporters that they were going to run a story that they knew wasn't true and I knew wasn't true unless I produced evidence to prove that it wasn't true. That's what you learn when you run for president.
What about we're only talking about one thing here, and this is what when James Carville came on, he kept going, hey, look at the moon, look at the moon, look at that over there, look at the cow over there. I mean, it's always look at something else.
Yes.
Don't look. So let me just ask you, do you have any bad dealings with Joe Becker or Mike McIntyre?
I do not.
Okay, just curious. Because that's what we're talking about this morning.
Bill Clinton should take $500,000 for a speech in Moscow while all these other dealings are going on, and Hillary Clinton is.
I don't know what the circumstances.
Okay, but just do you think yes or no? Do you think that's a legitimate question?
I have no idea. You have to know what the circumstances are.
Okay, come on.
All right, Jonathan Capehart.
That's all I need to hear.